This video is sponsored by Magic Mind. Do nootropics work, or are they basically a scam? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to go through how you can decide whether nootropics work for yourself and how I would think about this question. I'm going to go through my experiences personally about using some of these, and I'm going to go through why it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what the science and the research says about nootropics or some of the ingredients, and how you can actually make a decision about whether whatever nootropic is right for you. So let's jump into that. So I get asked this question quite a lot. Do nootropics work? If you're not familiar with the term, nootropics is pretty much the word that's used for a category of supplements, foods, drinks, shots, whatever they are, that are meant to enhance your brain and cognitive performance. And it's a interesting topic for me that I have learned a lot more about over the last few years. And it's interesting because I have my medical background, and so I can put on my medical hat, and then I've got my learning science and learning expertise as well. And I gotta say, just overall, it's a kind of like not very well regulated space. There's a lot of stuff out there that is pretty like, I don't want to say, well, it's basically a scam. Like some of these things are just outright a scam. And this is the case with a lot of supplements in general. Like there's really not a lot of research around some of these things, and people just sell them and you can just kind of market them as whatever. So it's not very ethical, and I have generally an issue with these types of things. Now, the thing with nootropics that's interesting is that usually they have ingredients that do work. And so the difficult part about saying whether nootropics work as a category is that it really depends on the specific product that you're talking about. And so the first thing is to tell you how to know if a nootropic is even legit in the first place or not, because I cannot go and review every single product on the market. I'd rather teach you how I would think about it and examine it for myself. So here's something that you need to know about supplements, natural therapies, all of this sort of stuff. I'm gonna put out a few facts there, right? This stuff is like not debatable. First of all, a lot, I would say probably most of the natural things that we know are effective have been turned into medications. Like it went like this. Way back in the day, there were all these, plants and herbs and stuff that we just ground up, mixed with some pepper, cook it over your fireplace, and you drink that and you feel better. We studied that, right? We put our science hat on, we looked at that, we distilled it, and then we turned it into a medication. So like Western medication is essentially the distilled, refined versions of the stuff that worked, but it all started from, like natural stuff. So in the modern day, natural therapies are often the things that are sort of like either not extremely effective or they have kind of mixed effectiveness. It's not the case for everything. Like there are still things that are effective that haven't been made like mainstream medications. I'm not saying that. There are definitely things that are in the space of natural therapies and natural medicines that are effective, that haven't been studied very much, that probably 20 to 30 years from now will just be considered part of, like medicine. And that stuff, will work. But what I'm saying is that compared to like 50 years ago, there's a lot less of that, right? And so overall, when you look at sort of natural ingredients, you will find that the effects that they have will be on the milder side, maybe less consistently found, potentially more side effects and therefore less safe. There's usually going to be some reason why, Big Pharma didn't jump on that and make it a medicine. Because if you think about it, Big Pharma has got a lot of money. They want to make a lot of money. If it works really well, they have a financial incentive to commercialize it and turn it into a medication. So if something is stopping Big Pharma, there's probably, some kind of legitimate reason. So I want us to kind of remove this sort of like false dichotomy between science-based Western medicine versus like natural therapy. Think about it more as a spectrum. In the beginning, everything was natural stuff. Now we've got a mix of them, but because science is constantly extracting the things that work from the natural stuff, over time, in the modern day, the stuff that is considered more natural therapy, naturopathic stuff, they tend to be stuff that is more mild, less consistent, potentially more dangerous, or in some cases, legitimately, it just does not work. It's just completely placebo. But I'm not saying that it doesn't work. So coming back to the topic of nootropics, this is how I think you should think about nootropics. In order for a nootropic to be worth it, for your money, because remember, you got to pay for it most of the time, the effect needs to be significant enough for it to be worth it, obviously. But the effect is actually something that you are measuring subjectively yourself. And what that means is that even if it were a placebo, you would still potentially find it worth it, except what you're paying for is really a placebo effect. But you know, the alternative is potentially not having the placebo effect, and the placebo effect is real. It means like you are getting a real benefit from it. It's just that the benefit doesn't come from the actual thing that you're like consuming. So that's, you know, kind of a tricky thing. Like if you feel like something is helping you and you feel like it works and therefore you feel like it's worth your money, it doesn't actually really matter what studies or research says, because you are making the value judgment that it's worth it for yourself. And that's actually important. There are lots of things that, you know, people will do because it makes them feel better. They are creating the placebo effect for themselves. And in some ways, it's actually smart. It's finding ways that you can tap into these powerful psychological effects that your mind is able to produce. Because the alternative may be that you are just like, you know, like a potato on the couch, not able to do all of these things and not having any of these great effects because you're like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense because there isn't a sufficient enough meta-analysis that said it, right? It's like, at the end of the day, what matters is how you feel about it and the outcomes that you're getting. But what if you really do want to know whether it works, scientifically speaking? Okay, there's a website I'm going to introduce to you. It's amazing. It's called examine.com. I've been using this for years. It's basically a website that goes through all these different, you know, nutrition things and supplements, and it goes through all the research for you. And the reason that I'd use a website like examine.com is because of the fact that you're going to be able to get consolidated information. Like you can't just find a single website with a single study that showed that there was a positive effect. Like in order for you to know whether something actually works consistently, you need to find multiple studies across like lots of different parameters to know that it works for sure, because that one study could have just been flawed, or it could have been for a target population that has nothing to do with you. Like maybe you're a 17-year-old, but the study was done on like 67-year-olds with Alzheimer's. Like it's not gonna be applicable. So you need to be able to consolidate research, and that takes a lot of time, which is why I personally use websites like examine.com. And this like video is not sponsored by examine.com actually. It used to be free, but now you actually have to pay for like a subscription thing. I think there's like some 7-day trial or whatever. But let's take an example. So one of the things that I was just looking up is L-theanine. So does L-theanine enhance cognition? So Magic Mind, the sponsor of this video and the one that sent me the little green shot things that I was taking for a couple months, one of the ingredients that they have is L-theanine. So what I want to do is I want to look up L-theanine. Like, is this ingredient legit? And when we look up the review on L-theanine, we can see, I haven't got, you know, I could unlock this free thing, but I'm just going to show you generally. You know, it kind of tells you that after researching this a little bit, what they found was that there weren't really, you know, super amazing effects. But then again, if you look at the study population, they were using 52 participants. It's not a lot of people, and they were 50 to 69-year-olds. So, you know, it's very different. These are people that are experiencing cognitive decline, and it's saying, does L-theanine help for those people with cognitive decline? So if you don't have cognitive decline, would it help you? We don't actually know, right? We can do a broader search just for L-theanine instead. Yeah, so gives you a summary about, you know, L-theanine's benefits, its drawbacks. There's also this very useful table as well. This is the database table. So it goes through and actually tells you the outcome that it gives you, and also the grade. So the grade is actually the consistency and the strength of the evidence. So the higher the grade, the better it's going to be. So this says that there's like sort of like some kind of evidence that it helps you with calmness, and the magnitude of that effect is that it is notable, right? So this is a great resource that you can use to browse through these ingredient lists, and this is literally what I would do whenever I'm assessing whether a nootropic or some kind of supplement is actually effective. I would go on to Examine, and then I'd look up the core ingredients, and then I'd look to see what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks. Because let me tell you, the companies that are selling these things, again, they're usually very unregulated. They can really market and say anything. So like Magic Mind, on their website, they're like, we've spoken with neuroscientists and whatever. And it's not like I don't believe them, but I'd rather do my due diligence rather than shoving some random thing down my body, right? So I looked at their ingredients. I went through and looked through their entire ingredients list and did this process for all of it. And I already had some understanding about some of the ingredients. And overall, I'd say that the ingredients they're using are all, you know, there's usually some research to suggest that it has, you know, some kind of benefit. So at the end of the day, I thought, well, it's worthwhile me actually giving it a shot. But as I said before, what matters is how you subjectively feel about it when you use it. So that's what I did. I took this supplement, and they market themselves pretty interestingly. They actually said that it's not meant to replace coffee. What it's meant to do is it's meant to offset the negative parts of coffee. I often feel this, I don't know if you guys feel this as well, but sometimes when I drink coffee, I get this very like wired sensation, like I'm awake and I'm attentive, but I'm a little bit on edge, like I'm a little bit jittery. And I still get this feeling when I have really strong coffee, and I've been drinking coffee for like a really long time now. So, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm like caffeine sensitive or something, but you know, that wired feeling is probably like the big, and also if I drink too much, like it makes me feel just a little bit more, almost like anxious in a way. So for example, I recently did my TEDx talk, right? And TEDx is like a big brand. So I was actually feeling nervous before that talk. I don't often feel nervous before public speaking, but before that talk, I was feeling nervous. So I did not drink caffeine. I did not drink coffee. In fact, I didn't even eat anything. I wanted to just be like fasted and like pure and, you know, just like mentally serene. Because I knew that if I was already in like a worked up state and I was feeling like a little bit anxious or apprehensive, and then I drink coffee on top of that, that's gonna get even worse. So, and I just did not want that. I would go into like a sympathetic overdrive. So that's kind of the negative parts of caffeine. And the idea is that shot, the Magic Mind shot, is meant to sort of help you have that focus and attention and concentration without having the jitteriness and the anxiety and the being really wired up. It's actually meant to help calm you down as well. So I took this shot every single day for 2 weeks. I think they recommend that you take it for at least like 3 to 4 days before you see some effects. I took it every single day for 2 weeks, and every single day I documented my subjective feeling after taking this. And I noted down how I felt. And then I stopped taking it for about a month, and then I documented how I felt in comparison. And then I took it again every day for another 2 weeks. So I'm gonna spare you all the details. Generally, here's what I found. First of all, it actually like was quite pleasant to drink because it actually tastes good. If you're into matcha, you know, it's got like a matcha honey kind of taste. I mixed it with like oat milk or almond milk, and it was really good. So just as like a drink purpose, yeah, pretty good. Worth the money? I don't know. From a productivity and focus perspective, the first few days, I definitely felt something was different. Like I didn't have that wired feeling that I was talking about before, that jitteriness. I think there probably, I did feel like a little bit more calm. That feeling did sort of fade though. After the first kind of week, I wasn't really noticing anything. I don't know if I just got desensitized or if I just got used to the feeling or if it was just a placebo or what. I didn't really notice anything anymore. And that is kind of consistent with what some of the studies say about it. And then when I stopped for that month, I didn't notice any change as well. Like I didn't feel like I had lost something. So for example, if I got used to it, if I stopped, what you would expect is that I would notice that the absence of something was there. Like for example, you know, like a withdrawal, like if you're addicted to, you know, like heroin or something, you can get used to it, but then when you stop, you're gonna feel the withdrawal. I didn't feel any kind of like, I don't feel like I lost the level of calmness or focus or concentration or anything like that. You know, I was drinking coffee the whole time as well. I continued to drink coffee, and they actually recommend, you know, you can have this with coffee. So I just continued it, and I didn't really notice any difference. And when I tried it again for another 2 weeks, it was the same thing. I noticed that there was some kind of improvement for the first few days, but it didn't really like last all the way. So I don't know exactly what to make of that. I think given that the science says that there is some positive effect, and you know, rather than buying like, I don't know, like some soft drinks or like just juice or whatever it is to have as a beverage, like I would probably rather this, like for the same price, I'd rather something that probably has some effect and is probably good for me and tastes good, rather than having something that tastes good but definitely doesn't have any positive effect or maybe even has a negative effect. Would I say that it was life-changing for me? Definitely not. Would I continue to, you know, use this on a regular basis if it was accessible enough? Probably, but I don't think I would really be, you know, making it like a staple part of my diet. It's definitely not on my list of like, these are the things that are gonna make the biggest difference. And that's generally how I feel about nootropics in just overall. Every time I've tried any type of nootropic, I've always just felt like there's some effect for a short period of time, but then it kind of wears out and I'm sort of questioning how effective it really was at the end of the day. So I don't know if like that was a good review, and therefore I don't know if like these guys are gonna let me like put this video out. But honestly, like when they sent me the product, and this is what I do for all my sponsors, I asked them, like, I'm happy to do a video for you, but I'm gonna leave an honest review. And if you're not happy with that, then, you know, just no. And they agreed, right? Like they agreed. In fact, they're one of the only companies that actually agreed to it. Most companies are like, no, you know, they obviously don't have confidence in their own product, but these guys actually said yes. And so this is a review, right? So I don't really think that nootropics are probably as hyped up as they are marketed to be, personally. I think that they can probably boost performance for some people, especially in the short term. I do know people that really swear by them. And so what's probably happening is that there is some level of individual variation, right? Potentially, they're either getting a longer or stronger placebo effect, which is again, like it's still an effect, right? Or they're more sensitive to the ingredients. Both is possible, but either way, that's why I said at the very, very beginning, my subjective experience about a single nootropic versus what the research and the studies say about something versus just how you personally feel with it yourself, as long as it's not harming someone, I think it's just fine. What would I recommend? I would recommend just give it a go. See if you like it. You'll find links if you want to try the Magic Mind drink. You'll find a link in the description. You can check that out. Give it a go. If you like it, you like it. And it's not going to break the bank. And if it gives you an improvement, that's definitely going to be worth the money. If it's not, well, then all you did is you just bought a nice tasting drink and you just drank it and you don't have to buy it again. So that's sort of my take on it. I would encourage everyone that's, thinking about nootropics though, to make sure you're looking at the ingredients first. Check if there's any issues with that interacting with medication. One of the big dangers is that if you're on existing medication and you take something, those ingredients will, there's a higher chance that it might interact with the medication. So check with your doctor beforehand. You can check up the ingredients yourself as well if you just want to do a quick check. If you're on a medication and a nootropic you want to try interacts with it, don't stop taking your medication, please, just to try the nootropic. I can promise you that it's probably not going to be worth it. There's other things that you can do. Please talk to your doctor about that. But here's what I would really like from this video. And I think this would be really, really cool because I've never seen anyone do this before on YouTube. I would love to see this. I don't really have a lot of hopes that it's actually going to work, but I'm going to just ask anyway. You know how normally I'm just like, hey, leave a comment, ask a question, whatever it is. Here's what I would like you to do, right? I would love to be someone that promotes your ability to do your own examination and critical thinking about this. If there is a supplement, if there is something that you have taken, I would love for you to actually look up the ingredients, even just the core ingredients, and then leave a comment in terms of what you found, in terms of whether it is actually effective or not. And I think what could be cool is that we could have an entire list of comments about different supplements and different products that you guys are independently coming in and talking about and reviewing with a scientific lens on your hat, plus also interjecting some of your own personal experience. And other people that might be wondering about the supplements could read through the comments and see what the deal is. I think that could be possibly cool and a great outcome for this type of video. Again, I can't tell you about whether every single possible nootropic on the market is effective or not, but I can tell you the process that I use to filter it, and I hope that you will take these skills and use it for your own life. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.